Bechtold, thanks for coming on today, guys.
Good to be here again, John.
So starting it off, there was a big trade a couple days ago involving Mookie Betts and the Dodgers. Tyler, what's your opinion on that? Let's just start off with you.
A lot of moving pieces in this deal as we see Betts and Price go to L.A., Brusdar Graterol and Alex Verdugo to Boston, and Kenta Maeda to Minnesota. Just a three-team deal, big trade. This is going to affect all the teams going down the line. I really like Verdugo going to Boston. I think he's going to prove himself in Boston. I think Graterol
The thing with the Mets, or with Betts, excuse me, Mookie Betts, I want to show
Mets, come on. They
Yeah.
suck.
The Mets don't make
They're not
trades,
going to make
so
that big of a deal.
This has to make the Dodgers into probably the World Series favorite by now.
Hey, they've been.
James Paxton just got injured for the
That's
Yankees
true.
as well.
100%.
That is
So
true,
I
but
think this makes the Dodgers really the big king in.
however, they have
LA.
been the last few years, but they haven't been able to make it there. But I do think that pushes them, that vaults them. That's that piece they needed to get over. And Price, he's got that pedigree. Betts, of course. I mean, 42 career WAR. What more can you say about this guy?
Yeah.
The thing with the Dodgers is, though, their whole rotation is left-handed pitching. Clayton Kershaw, David Price. They'll throw Julio Urias will probably be another arm they throw out there. So many lefties that you only got Walker Buehler at the top of the rotation, and I still am not really confident about the bullpen. We saw the problems that Kenley Jansen had last season.
And Joe
Joe
Kelly.
Kelly is another one. I don't have much confidence in that Dodger bullpen. I know they probably have to get a couple more pieces and probably will at the deadline. I think all the lefty starters and the bullpen struggling a little bit. We all know that the lineup's going to be phenomenal. When you're batting Will Smith, a projected 8th in the lineup, your catcher who hit almost 20 home runs.
Hey, they've got
He'll be,
something
yeah,
last year?
that's a scary team.
Yeah, but
They've got that prospect Midas touch.
And also, the Red Sox, they have shedded a bunch of salary cap, so it'll be interesting to see if, I know there aren't many key free agents out, but if they make another big splash with the
Yeah,
trade.
I could see them replacing Mookie Betts with Yasiel Puig. He's a guy that's still available on the market. He's a guy that they could add and maybe fill in that void that Mookie Betts left.
Yeah, and another moving piece is Kenta Maeda going from the Dodgers to the Twins. What's your opinion on Maeda?
I like Maeda. I think he's a dependable starter. I like him more in the bullpen as a longer
Yeah,
reliever.
he's a very versatile piece.
In the postseason,
Yeah.
this stuff really plays up in the bullpen. I think it's a great piece for the Twins. They needed someone else to throw in the bullpen, and I think once you get to the postseason, because we all project the Twins will probably be there in that division with the Indians.
It's a crazy division anyway.
The Indians subtracting pieces and the White Sox still building it up a little bit. I think it's a good piece for the Twins, especially in the playoffs.
And then going on to another trade, the Pirates traded really a centerpiece in Starling Marte. Austin, you're the Pittsburgh guy. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I'm the big Bucco fan, and I mean, do I like the trade? Marte had to be traded.
Yeah, Marte had to be
That's what
traded.
had to happen.
But see, the problem with it, in my opinion, the Pirates get two really young guys in Liover Peguero and Brendan Malone.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Pirates. Are they going to be anything?
Well, here's the thing that I look at. One thing that was really lacking with the Pirates was development. Now, development in the minor leagues, it was pretty solid. You got to say, guys like Bell, Taya, just prospects that would come up to the big leagues, they would not flourish in the big leagues. The big league coaching was really the problem.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if that changes with the new.
Right, getting
new
Shelton
man
in,
coming over.
getting guys like Ben Cherington in, bringing in a new system, a new coaching staff. I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air for this organization.
I just think this return is woefully insufficient, in my opinion. These guys, yeah, sure, they may have an impact in 4 or 5 years, but with reports that they wanted Francisco Alvarez and Andres Jimenez from the Mets, who are their 2 top prospects, I just think they could have gotten a lot more for this.
Gallo, your Mets farm system, not very great.
No.
Yeah,
compared to a top farm system with Arizona.
Peguero's, what, 18, 19?
They're both 19-year-old prospects.
Yes. Shortstop, last year he had a 326 average, 5 home runs, 38 RBIs, and that was only in like a couple 60 at-bats or
They haven't
something
reached over
slow like
Abel.
that. Yes.
That's the only concern. They're basically just, they're guys that you're taking a flyer on. They got high upside, but they also have high risks.
Yes.
The
So
problem
the
is,
ultimate, buy low, sell high pretty much.
that's the thing. You don't really know what you're going to get. But when the Pirates were in the draft processing, they took Quinn Priester with their first round pick. One of the guys they looked at was Brendan Malone. So they like the guy. They have liked him for a while. And even with this new regime, they like him. See what the Pirates can do with the talent that they're bringing into the organization. Marte just the first move of probably many.
And this, going on to the gridiron, this Sunday, there's a pretty big game happening. Just thoughts on the game overall?
Super Bowl 54, it was a better game than Super Bowl 53
Well,
than it was last
I think
year.
that's an understatement.
That is a
Super Bowl
big
53
understatement.
was terrible. It was just one of the worst we had in a while, probably since that, I forget what number it was, but when the Panthers and Broncos played, and it was just a blowout.
Yeah, not a great Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes lit it up, especially in the second half.
I
3
think-
total touchdowns.
Yeah, the Niners doubted the Mahomes magic, and then the Mahomes
I
magic
mean,
happened.
the
and it
Mahomes
came
magic, it didn't really show up
Yeah, they blew a
the first-
20-10 lead, so it's another one of those big Super Bowl leads that a team blows, and I think that
Kyle Shanahan blew
Kyle
two
Shanahan.
leads.
Shanahan
both of
again.
them.
I just think that the Niners just ran out of gas. That's really the only thing. They were high flying in the first half, and then in the second half they just hit a wall and they couldn't get
My
past it.
problem with San Francisco is
They played conservative.
their philosophy. Well, I wouldn't say that. Their philosophy is let's run the ball and
Yeah.
let's go with the pass after.
You're saying
And
they didn't play conservative coming out of the break at halftime?
Well, with the 10-point
They had
lead-
they had a 4th and goal from the Kansas City 24. They kick a field goal.
Oh,
4th and 1.
They
Are you
play
trying to-
conservative.
if-
When
with
I'm
the
trying
it's
to
the
play,
Super Bowl.
With
You
the
don't
people
play
trying to tell me
conservative,
that
you play
Jimmy
to win.
Garoppolo is an elite quarterback when he
He's
goes
not.
out there and throws like 92 yards a game, that's not how you're going to win games.
Then don't put it in Garoppolo. Your running back, Raheem Mostert, played brilliantly in the championship game.
After halftime, the game was tied. I'm talking about when it was 20-10, and here's San Francisco not playing their own game. They're going against what they've done getting here, running the ball, playing consistently on offense, and just winning the war in the trenches. And they went against that. You're up by 10 points. Run the ball, control the clock, do what you do best, and they didn't do that. Kyle Shanahan once again not taking advantage.
Kyle
of games.
Shanahan, this is building a reputation for him, a reputation that you really don't want to have in the NFL. You don't want that reputation as, the choke artist. We saw it a couple years ago with the Falcons, obviously, 28-3.
No, I wouldn't call
Both
it
teams,
that.
I mean, and with
It's gotta be
both
smart.
teams,
Not exactly 28-3 level, but it's still pretty bad.
you need to play a full game. You can't just play one half. You can't just play the second half. You have to play a full game. We've seen Kyle Shanahan in these big games does not know how to play a full game.
We're going from one type of football to the next. The XFL is starting this weekend. Guys, Tyler, are you excited for this?
I didn't even know it was starting this weekend, in all honesty. But I mean, this is probably the last chance that there is for an NFL alternative, and to see if it gets off the ground, it's going to be interesting to see. But I don't know if it'll be able to last.
Yeah,
Will you be watching?
This is the XFL. I don't know if I'll be watching, honestly. Saturday, Sunday games. I mean, it's football, but is it really quality football?
I know I'll be watching. It's football's football. There's not much. This is sort of a lull in the sports season, obviously, of hockey, but I'm a Sabres fan. They're terrible. That's all I can say. It's a month till March.
Yeah, and you picked them as your sleeper
Yes,
back
I
earlier
know.
in the
I
show.
know I did. But it's a month till March Madness. Baseball starts at the end of the month. They're really basketball, NBA. You know what's happening there. So it's really this is the dead spot of sports.
It is.
Unless
and
your team.
I know they're trying to fill in, trying to have year-round football, but there's not a demand for football right now, really. After the Super Bowl's
I think
over,
there is. I think there's
a
always a
minimal-
demand for
there's
football.
always a demand for
There's
football.
always demand for football, but not like a huge demand as the NFL would garner.
I'll probably catch glimpses and pieces of it. Probably won't watch a full game.
And I mentioned the Sabres, obviously, but the Penguins recently beat the Capitals. Can the Penguins win the Metro?
I think the Penguins win the Metro. Currently 6 points back of Washington right now. Great team, especially with the injuries that they've had to deal with. 2 really solid goalies. I think the Penguins got a really good chance.
Yeah,
and if Crosby and Malkin continue to play well, of course they have a chance.
Obviously, there's still a bit of the schedule left, but the Penguins play the Caps 3 more times, 1 in Washington, 2 at PPG. So there's still those chances to get points that obviously Washington can't get. And they have 2 games in hand. I think that it's quite easy. If the Penguins continue to play the way they do, no injury problems, they can, go on and win the Metro.
Well, and I think the way that they've battled adversity all season long with the injuries and stuff, injuries are never good. And when they came in and just went out and won games, that just shows you how good this team actually is. They're definitely the Metro favorite right now, in my opinion.
And then, obviously, speaking of the Penguins, do you think that next year they can, if they stay healthy, are they just the favorite overall, do you think, to win the Cup next year? I know it's a bit in the future still.
I don't think so, because I just think that they had a lot of overachievers this year, and I don't think that's going to translate into next season's success. They will still be successful, but they're not my favorite next year by any means.
I think there's still a lot of young talent on this team that, they'll be able to get there, push on, and whenever you have Crosby, Malkin, Chris Letang, Jake Gensel hopefully back healthy.
And you obviously have
always
guys
a
like,
chance.
Andrew Agozzino, who has some NHL experience now.
Teddy Bluger, Brandon Tana has been playing phenomenal.
Yes, they have. But coming up after the break, Tyler Austin and I will be talking about. Oh, excuse me. So
We're not going to take a break. We're going to keep talking
No,
sports,
of
John.
course,
Come on.
Sorry, who is your professional player of the week for this past week?
Professional player of the week. We touched on him. Let's talk about him again. Patrick Mahomes.
Of course it is. Of course it's Patty Mahomes for you.
Great Super Bowl performance. Like I said, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 through the air. He did throw 2 interceptions, struggled early on, but in the fourth quarter, absolutely
one of those
dominated.
interceptions really wasn't his fault. You know, it bounced off Tyreek Hill's hands right into the arms of the 49ers secondary.
Right, but in the fourth quarter, it was absolutely deadly, phenomenal. The Chiefs got their first Super Bowl in 50 years. Great to see for Patrick Mahomes, the new face of the league.
I'm going golf. Now you're saying
golf.
Yes, Webb Simpson. He won the Waste Management Phoenix Open at 17 under in a playoff over Tony Finau. Shot rounds of 64 and 63, -7 and -8 respectively. And he's projected to move up 13 spots to number 2 in the FedEx Cup. He had 21 birdies over the weekend. 21. That's tied for second across the round.
Yeah, well, my player to watch is going to be a guy that isn't talked about as much as his line mate, Connor McDavid, but Leon Draisaitl.
Is anybody talked about as much as Connor McDavid?
No, he isn't,
Let me be honest.
Leon Draisaitl,
McDavid's
2 goals
over-talked
and
about.
4 assists this week. Just a solid season all around. He leads the league in points by 4, by the way. He's just having an unreal season.
He is.
Sort of riding the coattails of McDavid a little bit, but this just shows how good of a player he is. One of the best Germans of all time in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, who else is there really? There's Draisaitl and
Danny Heatley was from Germany, and he
Yes.
scored 50 in 07.
yes, but coming up after the break, for real this time.
Let's take the break this time.
Austin, Tyler, and I will be discussing all RMU sports, so stay tuned here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
Hey, Dad, I need your help asking Jessica to prom.
Of course. Love is like the ocean. You have to tread the
Oh,
waters.
Dad, that's not the kind of help I needed. Hey, Jessica. Will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on, man, let's split a ride home.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look,
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. John Hanna, Tyler Gallo, Austin Bechtold. So, women's basketball, 10-0 undefeated in NEC play. Who is their biggest threat? Austin, let's start with you.
I don't know. Honestly, do you want my honest answer?
There isn't one.
one.
There is not one.
I
There is
mean,
not one.
Mount St. Mary's does sit at 7-2, but there's no reason to think that they're even going to challenge them for this NEC title. They've been so dominant this
They've
season.
rolled through everybody so far. I don't see a little school in Emmitsburg, Maryland, making a big threat for them.
Yeah, and I think that this is just going to be another ride to the NCAA tournament for them. Of course, they're going to play the 1 seed or the 2 seed.
Probably
so,
play Louisville. Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, I agree with you, Mount St. Mary's. St. Francis, maybe, but no Jess Kovac, obviously. She was a big killer of the Colonials last year, except for one game where they held her to 8 points. But she's been big, obviously. No more her. There's tough, but Mount St. Mary's, I think, is the second best team. But
Probably.
there's obviously a key or a big difference.
Sacred Heart, Wagner, Fairleigh Dickinson the next 3 games.
fairly ridiculous, in my
Do you
opinion.
think there's any chance the Colonials lose those games?
No.
I'm going to go no.
No.
And, they may lose one game along the way, but I just think that this team is one of the best on campus, if not the best on
Yes,
campus.
and Speaking of teams that, what do you think has been the key so far to their success?
Defense. Phenomenal defense.
Defense.
I mean, defense and NECA Zebo has been lights out for them.
NECA Zebo is probably, in most people's eyes, is in my eyes, the NEC Player of the Year.
Easily.
Definitely
Yes.
all conference.
But
We're so lucky to have a player like her on our women's basketball team, just
And
controlling
Tyler,
the floor.
Speaking of NEC, men's basketball, now 3 in a row. Are you impressed with these wins?
Oh, not in the slightest. Only one win was by more than 10, and they were against some of the worst teams in the division. It's Bryant's 2-7. CCSU is 1-10.
They're
and
2-22 overall.
And LIU's 5-4. By the way, Bryant, the only team they won by more than 10 against. So
See,
I'm not impressed.
Not one bit.
I kind of am because it shows they can battle down these stretches. I know they shouldn't be close games, but it
Really
shows
should
that
not be close
they
games.
can AJ Brahma in those 3 games has had a double-double in every single one of them.
Bryant and CCSU were home games.
That is true. That is
Why
very
would
true.
why would they be?
And
why would they have to be that close? You don't
that
have to face
LIU
any other
game,
atmosphere.
that
any
LIU
road
game was
atmosphere.
way too close for comfort,
Yep.
even on the road.
And that CCSU game, they just didn't. I mean, I'm still impressed because 3 in a row is tough, and unless you're RMU women's basketball, but I think it's still impressive. And speaking of 3 games that coming up, road trip. How important is this, Austin?
I think it's crucial. I think we're coming down the stretch run. If the Colonials are going to hold on to the 2nd spot, and with Merrimack not eligible for the NEC tournament, it's definitely important that they hold on to the top spot, obviously, to be able to control their own destiny.
This is against Sacred Heart, who's 7-3.
Big game.
They're right behind them.
Very big game. This is going to show if they are contenders or pretenders. That's really the only thing I can think of for this road trip. These are some really good teams they're going to play against, so they need to win these games and not play like they did against the terrible teams.
2-7 Wagner, 5-4 Mount St. Mary's, and a 7-3 Sacred Heart.
The last 2 games are the most important of the 2.
Yes, they are. And lacrosse was in action last week. They had a couple of scrimmages against Seton Hill and Denison. Guys, what are your expectations for this season?
I think they're going to challenge for the NEC tournament again. They had a really good year last year, and by the way, Corson Keeley almost tripled his goal output from a year.
I don't know what Corson Keeley was doing in the offseason, but obviously
it worked. It really worked. He went
phenomenal.
from 18 goals to 62 goals in the season.
And if he's doing the same thing next year, imagine if he did the same thing this offseason.
He might have 100 points in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, they lost Tyson Gibson, who was the first overall pick in the NLL draft. He had 69 points.
Nice.
They lost their starting goalie, Alex Hager.
Ryan Smith's back.
Yeah, but
40 goals.
They brought in some key players.
Really key players.
Freshman Ben Starkey, he was a U.S. Lacrosse All-American, Regional Player of the Year, Position Player of the Year, 2 Conference MVP, 3 All-Conference First Teams, and he has the 2nd most goals in Ohio history.
That's a lot of stats, John Hanna.
I think this team, honestly, is one of the most underrated teams on campus, the least talked about team, if you will. They're one of the best teams on campus, and nobody talks about them because nobody goes to the games.
Obviously, NEC's changed a little bit with their structure, with the adding of LIU, Merrimack, and NJIT, but they're still the top pick to win the NEC West.
Especially if Corson Keeley does what he did last year.
Hobart winning NEC East unanimously. But coming up and then switching from men's lacrosse to another game played with sticks, hockey. They lost their 4th game in a row to Arizona State over the past weekend. Is this the time to panic, Tyler Gallo?
Well, from someone whose baseball team is known as Panic City, this is Panic City time for the hockey team. These 4 games were the most crucial of their season. AIC just sitting ahead of them in the league, and they lost all 4. And Justin Kappelmaster did not look good in the AIC games.
He
was replaced by Lubesmeyer in the first game after allowing 4 goals.
Lubesmeyer actually started one of the games against Arizona State.
Yeah.
I know they're number 11, but still, these were games you needed to win. Nick Perkusic, 19 points this year. 19 points for Nick Perkusic.
Luke Lynch just scored his first goal, too.
Yeah.
So
Luke Lynch, he had 31 points last year. He has 12.
The goal scoring has not been there. There's just the offense has not been there. This team has not played an all-around complete game once.
There's 60 teams in NCAA hockey. They're scoring 2.27 goals a game. That's 47th in the NCAA.
That's something that needs to improve.
Their power play is 54th, the 6th worst in the entire NCAA. This is definitely the time to panic, but it's not like, hockey where you can go out and make a trade, or professional hockey, excuse me. This is college. I don't know what Derek Sewell's going to do. Switch up the lines?
Shuffle the lines. You need to find guys that have chemistry together and that can put in goals on a daily basis. Yeah, they've got depth scoring. You need that, but also you need a guy that's going to go out and score most games. They don't have a guy that has a point per game this season.
Yeah, but going from a pretty, sad team on campus for men's hockey to women's hockey, 8 games left. What are the keys to finishing strong, Tyler, as our
Well-
D4 hockey player on here?
Oh, not much of a hockey player. But I think they just need how they play how they've played all year. The weight of the Gebhard points record is off their shoulders
Yes.
now, and they can play light and breezy and easy like they have been all season to go out there and win games.
They have to win games like they should. Last year, coming down the stretch, they lost 6-1 in Missouri to Lindenwood.
Yeah. Well, that's
Lindenwood,
not
who
going
has
to
been
happen
the
this
doormat
year.
of the CHA for the past
Yeah.
5 years.
Well, see, you know what they did this year? They came out and they whopped them at home. So
Yes.
they
Yeah.
adjusted from that. There was bad blood there. They were mad about that last season.
Coming
they
up
came in.
after this, they play a 5-4-3 Penn State in conference this weekend, an 8-2-2 Mercyhurst at the weekend after that, 2-10 RIT, and then a 7-4-1 Syracuse. There's no reason whatsoever you should lose to Penn State or RIT. No reason whatsoever.
And they lost to RIT earlier in the
did,
year. They're
which
going to
is-
come back out with fire, especially because RIT handed them one of their first. RIT got one of their first wins this season.
Yes, and you can't lose to Hearst. You're tied in the CHA standings
Yes.
with 18 points. That is really the key game for the entire CHA.
A lot of teams have a crucial stretch coming up, but this is the most crucial for women's
Got to
hockey.
start it off against Penn State. As long as Michaela Boyle and JC Gebhard are scoring,
Yes,
I think
and
it's going to be just
as
fine.
Tyler mentioned, Gebhard obviously passed the scoring record for Lindenwood. That's a huge weight off her shoulders.
Exactly.
She can go just to, putting the puck
And
in the
just
net
go
for,
play.
For JC,
RMU's
she
pet.
probably wasn't really thinking about it that much out there, but she knew it was there. And she didn't crumble like Francis Marat did last year with the
No.
wins record.
And
So.
talking about RMU, who was your RMU player of the week?
Well, I'm going to go with the guy that, we talked about A.J. Brahma, who did really well, but my guy is Josh Williams. Yeah, he had 2 bad games, sandwiched with a good one, and that good one was a very good game. He put up 21 points, was the
But
points
in that
leader.
bad game, he had 3 points.
Yeah,
he
3
made
points.
1 shot.
But I just think that in order for him to continue to do well this season, he needs to find that consistency that he had last year. But he does not have it this year. Even though he had a really good week, it's just still, I think he needs to pick it up a little bit.
And I see that you have a women's basketball.
Yes.
Entire defense.
All right, guys. So there was not just one spectacular player on RMU women's basketball this week. The whole entire defense was phenomenal. First game, CCSU shot 31% from the field.
Well, CCSU is also 2-10.
I know they're bad. 17% from 3, 23 turnovers. How about this, though? They scored 2 points in the fourth quarter. 2!
That's starting to sound like
Granted,
points.
it is CCSU, but,
Yes.
but allowing only 2 points in a quarter
All right, what
is
about
still nothing to sneeze
Next
at.
game, let's talk Bryant. 25.6 from the field, 8% from 3. Bryant was completely shut down. They also scored 13 points in the
And
second half, only
watching
7 in the
these
fourth
games,
quarter.
Brian and CCSU just looked listless out there in
Yes,
the
they
second half of
did.
the game.
It does not look like it looks like college basketball against high school
And
basketball.
obviously,
Not even
to
close
score, you
competition.
have to.
It looks like
those
a 1
players.
against a 16.
And my player, freshman Dahomey Forge, she's from Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu in Quebec. She had 28 games over the past 2 games, highest scoring Colonial over the past week, 10 of 16 from the floor, and 4 of 9 from 3 points over the weekend.
She's been a
against
very,
Bryant and CCSU.
very, very low-key good player this season for the team.
Yes, but coming up after the break, Tyler, Austin, and I will be giving our final takes. So stay tuned here on Sports Talk in the Burgh.
Do we have...
Of course. Love is like the ocean. You have to tread the
Oh,
waters.
Dad, that's not the kind of help I needed. Hey, Jessica. Will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. This guy, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's put a ride home.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look.
Welcome back to Sports Talk in the Burgh. It's time for everybody's favorite segment, Final Takes. Austin, let's start with you.
Let's go. All right, Super Bowl Sunday came and went by last weekend with many truths coming to light. Andy Reid is a coach players love and want to win for. Kyle Shanahan struggles to close out fourth quarters in Super Bowls. The Chiefs actually can run the ball and also do run the ball, and Jimmy Garoppolo has his limitations. But nothing was more clear than this. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are for real, and they're not going away anytime soon. This game proved versus the league's toughest defense that Mahomes, no matter the deficit that he may face, has the ability to bring his team back under the brightest lights in the biggest game of the season and deliver a Super Bowl victory. With the likes of Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers, and Ben Roethlisberger on their way out in the next few years, the stage is set for the next dynasty to be born, and with Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, and eventually coming up this year, Joe Burrow, the top competition against him, no one can compete versus Mahomes with a legendary supporting staff that can power their way against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the new face of the league, and the NFL should have no problem with this, as him being their representative for them for all the world to see.
So thank you for that take, Austin. And we just talked about that Mookie Betts trade earlier in the show, which had a lot of moving parts and a lot of players changing their location. My thoughts on this are that this will certainly not be the last big-name trade this offseason that happens. We've heard a lot of rumors involving big-name players, and my thoughts are that of Nolan Arenado, Chris Bryant, and one of the other players named. Before teams take the field on opening day, one of those players will be dealt. We have seen how the Cubs have handled Bryant's grievance situation, and don't even get me started about how terribly the Rockies have treated franchise player Arenado. Long story short, one of these guys will be on the move before the season starts. People thought Betts wouldn't be moved because of his arbitration dealing, but a lot of us knew that the Red Sox would not try to retain him this offseason, and he got traded. Get ready for a big deal involving one of these players.
Well, mine also requires around baseball. Earlier today, it was announced that former Cincinnati's Red player and manager Peter Edward Rose has seized the opportunity that the Houston Astros have caused with their big old cheating debacle and has asked the MLB for reinstatement. And I agree with him. After Commissioner Rob Manfred elected to not punish any players except for some reason Carlos Beltran, God must hate the Mets, which in theory is more of a violation than what Pete Rose did. After all, he never gambled against the Reds, only for them and for other games around the league. It's not like the Black Sox situation in which they threw the game. He tried to get his team to win. Pete Rose should be a Hall of Fame. In the petition, it states, quote, "There has never been allegation that Mr. Rose's misconduct was intended to gain a competitive advantage over other teams. It did not change results of plays or games to his personal benefit in terms of outcomes on the field. No game outcome or player or manager performance was ever affected." So, Pete Rose, with his career 160 home runs and 1,314 RBIs, and all-time leading 3,562 games played and 1,450, that's supposed to say 4,150, excuse me, hits, there is no reason that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm offended by you.
You're offended by me, John
Yes,
Hanna.
I'm a Bills fan. How do you not mention Josh Allen?
Okay.
Sam Darnold is terrible.
All right,
Sam Darnold is terrible.
All right,
Josh
John.
Allen has been better than Sam Darnold has been this past
Yeah, but
season.
then
All
he
right, hold
also
on,
tried
let me
to
answer, let me answer.
lateral during a
Yes.
playoff game while he was being
At least
tackled.
he made the playoffs, unlike Sam Darnold
All right,
did.
so you know what I did? I first wrote in Josh Allen. I was like, yeah, Buffalo Bills. And I was like, John Hanna's going to say something. I really believe in Sam Darnold. I don't believe in the coaching staff. I think once Sam Darnold gets another coach in there, it's not Adam
the
Gase
Jets. They're one of the-
with his eyes looking around in press
One of the
conferences.
worst-run franchises in the NFL.
Put something around him. Sam Darnold's
For
got
you,
so much
I
talent.
think it's going to be, not only do I agree that Mahomes will run the league, I think him and Lamar Jackson are going to jockey for that because Jackson's been on the same path that Mahomes has been in his first couple years.
All right, well, Tyler, that's all we have for today. Sorry, you're going to have to talk about it after the show. Tyler Gallo, Austin Bechtold, I'm John Hanna. See you in 2 weeks.